Faster, better, cheaper. A tagline sempre repetida por Martin Sorrell para descrever a filosofia da S4 Capital parece que tem dado certo até aqui. Nessa entrevista, Sorrell comenta o crescimento da S4 Capital na América Latina, fala sobre a aceleração do digital nos negócios das marcas e também dá seus palpites sobre o futuro das holdings e de eventos como Cannes. He recently said that COVID-19 has only accelerated digital trends in 3 levels: consumers, media, and enterprise. How do you expect it to develop into business opportunities?
We're totally focused on digital. We're purely digital because, our model, because that's where the growth is. Even in COVID-19, as you said, we see an acceleration. The second principle is first-party data driving the creation of digital advertising content and distribution through data and analytics and programmatic. We think that holy trinity model, as we put it, becomes more important. So personalization at scale becomes more important, and data analytics-driven media become more important. The third thing is we think our go-to-market tagline is around faster, better, cheaper. Faster is about agility. Better is about knowing the digital ecosystem. And I define the digital ecosystem by the 6 platforms. So Google, Facebook, Amazon, Tencent, Alibaba, TikTok. And then in addition, Apple and Microsoft and Adobe and Oracle and Salesforce and IBM and SAP and ByteDance, which is the parent of TikTok, Baidu, Twitter, Pinterest, Samsung, Spotify, Netflix. Those are the sorts of companies that we think about. And our role is to distribute budgets between hardware companies, software companies, and the platforms. And then cheaper means more efficiency, not necessarily zero budgeting, but being efficient in a world where there's very little inflation, very little growth, very little inflation, a focus on, and very little pricing power, and therefore a focus on cost. And then, so you have to be cheaper. And then the last fundamental principle is a unitary structure. We're trying to build one firm. So when Prog Media comes into S4, it's made a part of Mighty Hive. When Digodat comes into S4, it's made a part of Mighty Hive. And in turn, Mighty Hive is working very closely with Media Monks on our content and our programmatic offer. So the answer to your question is that all 4 of those things have become more important and have accelerated in a digital world, which in itself is being accelerated by COVID-19. So everything that's happening just speeds up the process. I don't think it creates new trends. I mean, going back to consumers, are using more digital because they educate, they shop, they do their healthcare online. Dr. Google has become more and more important. If you have something wrong with you, what do? Do you ring your doctor or do you ring Dr. Google? And the answer is you ring Dr. Google. At least you might do it at the beginning. And then having got, if you've got a symptom of something, if you think you have corona, you might Google those symptoms and then you take action. So healthcare, education, online shopping, 1/3 of American households are online for the first time for groceries and necessities. And we communicate online like we're doing now. So, inevitably, when I return, I'm going back to the office this week for some time, not the whole time, sometime. When I go back, I think I will travel less. I will use this form of instead of you saying, come to Meio&Mensagen's conference in Sao Paulo to speak, I will say to you, instead of me spending a day, much as I love going to Brazil and Sao Paulo, or Rio de Janeiro, or Itacorea, or wherever, I much prefer perhaps to do it from here online, and the technology is improving. So, and your own magazine, newspaper, less printed, more digital. Globo has changed its model to reflect, online, and the streamers, Disney Plus and Netflix, and last but not least, at the enterprise level, people running companies are increasingly understanding they have to move the digital needle much faster, and COVID-19 has speeded up. So all these forces are being magnified. So COVID-19 is the burning platform for digital acceleration. But I describe them as frenemies. And I think, I would modify today my experience because they've become more important. They've become stronger. COVID-19 will make them stronger. The strong will get stronger. So the 6 platforms, Google, Facebook, Amazon, Alibaba, Tencent, and I would include TikTok, part of ByteDance. Those 6 platforms will become more important. 3 Western, 3 Chinese. And I think, I view them, I think that with all due respect to the trade press and to the analysts, they keep on saying, and the general press, that Google and Facebook, for example, are competitors. They're not. They're not interested in being the service layer. They're interested in organizations such as ours, helping them explain to clients their benefits. And when I describe that ecosystem as being 18 companies, what I mean is our role is to explain the importance of hardware, software, and the platforms to our clients. And if any of those platforms or hardware companies or software companies become more important and our clients should use more of them, we will say so. If they become less important and they should use less of them, we will say so. So it's a question about making sure that our clients use these platforms, these hardware companies, these software companies in the most effective way.
In your opinion, are multinational advertisers in the right path for digital transformation?
The answer is yes, but I think, to be, and this is controversial, but I think, I said faster, better, cheaper. And I would say the key attribute that the multinationals have to have is agility. And I think, to be honest, they lack agility often. That, the CEOs of every company that we talk to, or the CMOs, or the CIOs, or the CFOs, or the chief sales officers, when I ask them the question, which I always like to ask them, is what is the thing that keeps them awake at night, or when they wake up in the morning they worry about most? They say lack of agility or lack of speed. And I have to say that is still the case, that most of the multinationals that you talk to lack sufficient agility. And one of the things they always say is their local competitors are much faster and much more responsive. So I think, the answer is generally they're in the right direction, but they have to move quicker. My own view is it's no good spending 6 months on reviewing agencies. To my mind, that whole process is from a previous era. In a 24/7 always on world, if you're spending 6 months trying to find an agency, the problems have changed in that period of time. So speed is of the essence. Agility is of the essence. And when you look at the tech companies, which all the multinational companies want to copy in terms of structure and speed and responsiveness, because they are digital companies, not analog, so they don't have the analog albatross around their necks. When they look at them, what they don't appreciate, I think, is the willingness of the tech companies to move as quickly as possible. That's really important, really important.
Does S4 manage to escape 6 months reviews?
Well, we're tiny, so we're tiny, we're small, and we have 2,550 people, and we're in 30 countries, which is enough. We'll probably add Germany, that will be 31, but that's enough. We have a very strong network now in Latin America. We're very strong there with Circus, with Prog Media, with Digadat. We're quite a formidable presence there, and we have a full capability. We have an end-to-end capability, not outside digital, but digital is now half of the global advertising and marketing media market. It will be more. By 2022, we think it will be almost 60%. One analyst says by 2024, it will be 2/3. So digital is starting to dominate. And going back to your first question, COVID-19 is speeding that. So, we haven't been operating long enough, or we're not big enough to have bad habits. The problem with the holding companies is that they're too big, they're too analog, they're too slow, and they're too inefficient, and they're too costly. And the only way they will survive, in my view, is by being broken up. They won't survive as they are now. They have to be broken up into pieces. They're too big, and they're too analog.
Are the fusions between holdings a possibility for the future?
Yeah, I think, you might get Havas with IPG, you might get Dentsu with IPG, but I think even those would be inadvisable. I think they're going to have great difficulty, and the only solution is for them to be broken up into pieces where they will operate more efficiently and they will be better, or they have to be privatized by private equity and be broken up. I think the only solution, they are not fit for purpose anymore. They're too big, they're too lumbering, they're too slow. I mean, the CEO of one of the holding companies said at an institutional investor conference that it is slow for them to pull the levers. You understand what I mean? To pull the levers, their control levers. And my view is, whilst they're still pulling the levers driven by the problems around COVID-19, we'll be coming out of COVID-19. They just don't move quickly enough. They're too slow. It's like David and Goliath, or it's like a motor torpedo boat and an aircraft carrier. It takes them a long time to turn around, whereas the motor torpedo boat can go much faster.
What's your perception of the campaigns and content that ran during the pandemic?
Well, I think the reaction has been understandable, and I think some of the work, I would call out Facebook's work in particular. I think they came out with a corporate campaign, which I think was excellent, which was very different to the sort of things that we'd seen from Silicon Valley. But generally, with one or two exceptions, I think the work has been too formulaic. If you remove the logos or the names from the ads, you really couldn't distinguish what was what. So I don't think they had a distinctive personality. I think a lot of the work that is being done online, because whilst budgets have been cut, money has moved to online. Because tactically, from a sales point of view, that's more effective. The cost has come down very sharply because most people are at home. But in addition to that, I mean, that's happened with traditional media too, but so the cost has come down, but the effectiveness of online, with, for example, as I said, 1/3 of US households buying essentials and food online, the effectiveness has come up hugely. And one of the things we see is brands reducing traditional spend because it's more mass and personalizing it much more effectively in digital, and therefore they can be much more sales orientated and performance orientated when they go digital. So I think the direction is the right direction, and what it means is when we come out of COVID-19, that online and digital will be even more effective. For example, in China, Nike, whilst in the midst of the pandemic, they made their app available for free, and online sales went up by 30%. And when the lockdown was eased, they maintained the app at free, and online sales, I think, are up by 70%. And I think they're predicting that by the end of the year, they will be at the same level as they were in 2019. So they'll be back to where they were, which is a remarkably quick recovery.
In the first semester, S4 has grown 17%. More than half of its revenue came from content. What are the expectations for the second quarter and the second semester?
Well, we did 19% of gross profit and 17% on revenues. So gross profit is the real measurable number. So we did very well. Our budget was for 30%, but because of COVID, it came down. We had a good April. You'll see we have our AGM on Monday, and we'll be making a statement about April, but we had a good April. May looks pretty good too. We're growing at a time when the advertising holding companies are forecasting to be down by 15, 20, 25%. So we're doing, remarkably well, I think, in comparison. I think Q2 will be tougher than Q1, but we've said after Q1 we will do double-digit top-line growth. So we're sort of committing ourselves to that. So I think Q2 will be tougher than Q1, but I think we will still do well relatively to the industry and relatively to others. And then I think Q3 gets relatively better because Q2 will be the toughest quarter for our clients. And then Q4 gets better than Q3. And then I think 2021 gets better. I think we will look back on Q2 as being the worst quarter for our clients. And therefore, obviously it'll be the toughest for us. But I think it will still be relatively good for us vis-a-vis the competition. I mean, we have the advantages, two big advantages. One is we're purely digital, where relatively the growth is better. And secondly, we're very tech orientated. If you look at the stock market, our stock correlates more to the tech companies than it does the ad holding companies. In the last year or so, the advertising holding companies have gone down on average by anywhere between, in market cap, by 1/3 to 1/2, and we've doubled.
S4 has been investing in Latin America, most recently with the acquisition of Digodat. Are you planning on continue to invest in Latin America, even with the crisis, the economic crisis, especially in Brazil?
Yeah, I do. I'm still a raging bull on Latin America. Most importantly, apart from a personal like of the region, from a business point of view, the creative talent and the technological talent in Latin America is very strong. Call out in particular Brazil, Argentina, Mexico, and Colombia. Those four to me are really, really strong. And I think in each country you find very strong creative talent. and very strong technological talent. You know, companies such as Mercado Libre, such as Globant. You know, those are two examples, both of them Argentinian, that spring to mind in terms of highly successful digital companies. And it's a great credit to their founders and their beginnings. You know, they started small in Argentina, that they grew through Latin America. And, you know, in the case of Globant, for example, has gone beyond Latin America to North America, to Europe, and clearly will become a major global force.
Do you think that the industry's approach towards events such as Cannes will change a year from now?
Well, I hope so. I hope Cannes will use the opportunity to reposition its offer and reposition itself. You know, I think going to the French Riviera in the middle of June or towards the end of the June, and paying what we pay for hotels, restaurants, airline fares, awards, you know, the entry fees for awards, in this day and age, I don't think it's the right positioning. And just like the holding companies are not fit for purpose, I don't think the old way of doing Cannes is the right way. You know, I think celebrating creativity in our industry is really important, but I think that can be done with modern technology in a totally different way. And I think we've spent too much money. You know, if you look at the proportion of Essential owns Cannes, and I was shocked when I saw the proportion of Essential's EBITDA or profits and revenues that came from Cannes. I think it was about a third. You can check it. I think it was about a third. That's huge. And I think that it's about time they changed their approach. They made it more virtual, more online, so you can get huge audiences on a virtual platform. Your price per customer, your ARPU, goes down from being a live event, but the number of people that you can accommodate goes up hugely. So it reminds me of when I was at WPP and Millward Brown, we had copy testing. And we used to do copy testing. It would take a month and cost $100,000. And we made a decision to go to an express overnight system, which cost, instead of $100,000, $10,000. We did more than 10 for one. Our margins were higher. We did more revenue and we did more profit, but it was a different model. So I think the time has come to change that. The technology in a year's time will be 10 times better. It's good now. You know, we can connect in this way, but we will be able, I am sure, in the years to come, my presence and your presence will be virtual. And we will do things technologically to bring us closer together, you know, in a much more efficient way. You know, why should I spend a day going to Australia when I can do it, and then, you know, jet lag? Time is our most precious commodity. And that's the thing we have to ration. I think COVID-19 has certainly made me think more about how I spend my time and how I allocate my time to get the maximum effectiveness. You know, I had an invitation to go to Seoul in Korea, and I'd like to go there. But apart from the risks, because I'm 75 and therefore in the vulnerable category, I said, well, let's do it virtually.
Thank you, Sir Martin, for the interview.